Hi, this is Jojo with the Hookup Baits Podcast, and we have a very special guest today. We have Frank Santiago and Chad Gurley.
Santiago.
That was fancy.
Yeah.
Frank, you are a Hookup Baits Ambassador. You're part of the Hookup Baits SBS rookie team, a dear friend, and certainly a big part of our Hookup Baits family. So let's start telling the listeners where you grew up and how did you get into fishing?
Oh boy, going way back. So I'm originally from Northern California. I'm a Navy brat. I was born in the Bay Area, but I'm a Navy brat, so I've lived everywhere. Lived on the East Coast, and but finally my family settled down in Salinas. And
Did you pick vegetables?
when they were done harvesting, yeah, we actually
You
did.
would
When
go
I
out
was a
and
kid.
Go out and clean up afterwards.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. Oh yeah, I got voluntold to go do that stuff.
Voluntold.
Yeah. So I got in the back of the station wagon and like all the kids, and we would go out, and my cousins and everybody, we'd go out and get lettuce, and we'd get onions and garlic. We did the whole thing.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
whatever was
good.
done was out there. It was out there.
What was left over?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I can see Frank fitting in the Yuma farm here pretty quickly.
I'm past that life now.
Oh, darn
I'm
it.
retired from that. I moved on. But yeah, so we did that, and then we did a lot of the fishing part. When that came in, I always fished. Ever since I was a kid, my dad used to fish, and then as we moved in to Salinas, my uncle was a big fisherman, so we used to always go with him and go fish Moss Landing, and he was a bigger influence, I believe, than my dad was as I grew up. Because my dad worked a lot, and he was a disabled vet, and my uncle was a disabled veteran, so from Vietnam. So he would be making his own flies and shrimp flies and stuff like that. Did a lot of surf fishing, and when my dad would go to work, I'd go fishing with him, or if my dad was home, we'd all go fishing. Well, both of us would go fishing. So my brothers and my sister never got into it. I was the only one really that would fish.
That's weird. We hear that a lot. Like there's always one person in the family that get into fishing. It's it's like doing these podcasts. We've heard that over and over again.
Yeah,
I was the only
crazy.
one that got into fishing.
Yeah,
Kind of
that's
thing,
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the same thing for me. I'm the only one in my family that got into fishing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean they tried it, and then they kind of fell off of it, But that's what really brought me to fishing was really going with my uncle a lot more, and then when my second youngest brother was growing up, he kind of started getting into it as he saw me doing it more and more. When I moved down here, he saw me doing a lot more of it. He got into it. So, but I think that's how I got into fishing, was more of my uncle than my dad. My dad was more of like, hey, let's go do something this weekend kind of thing. It was like a weekend warrior, but it wasn't as hardcore as my uncle was.
Yeah, that's cool.
And what brought you to San Diego?
So I graduated from high school, did JUCO in Salinas, and then decided to join the military. My grades were kind of slipping a little bit, but I was supposed to come to San Diego State. And but I also got accepted to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
Oh, nice.
But while I was waiting for that, I was like, well, my dad was like, well, you need to join the military. So I was like, okay, great. I got my acceptance letter from San Diego State, but then I was waiting for my San Luis Obispo letter, and I was like, it started getting really, really, really close. So it got down to the wire was, okay, I got to do it. So I went and pulled the trigger, signed up, went to MEPS, did my physical and all that other stuff. And I came home that night from Oakland, and my acceptance letter was with my best friend. So I came home, and my dad's like, you need to go see your friend Tim. And so he was the best man at my wedding that I saw. He's like, you need to go see your friend Tim. So I went over to his house, and he had my acceptance letter from San Luis Obispo. And that's what I was waiting on. I was like, well, it's too late now. I can't go there because I've already signed up, and I'm leaving. In a few months or whatever. So that was kind of it was a downer, but then again, it was like, okay, well, I had to make a decision. And I don't regret it. I had my time in the military, and it took me to Florida for a few years for school, and then I came back here. My oldest brother was stationed here, and I was like, well, I've always wanted to live in San Diego. So when I got my orders, I asked for San Diego. So I've been here ever since 1991.
And what did you...
And you don't have college debt.
I don't know.
So you gotta always look at the bright side
Yeah,
of things.
that's true. Yeah, I'm not paying off any student loans or anything, but yeah, that's true.
And tell us what you are currently doing in your career.
So I've been blessed with, transitioning out of the military. I was blessed with, I had a steady job I was working 2 jobs at, Airborne Express, and then I was working at Vaughn's, kind of making ends meet. And then ran into some friends and said, hey, I got a job at, a friend of mine has a job at Cymer, which is a pretty big semiconductor industry here. So with all my networking through Airborne Express, being different companies stuff, I made a lot of friends, and so that kind of opened up my opportunities to get a job into something else. So I was able to get into Cymer, and I was there for 5 years, and through those associates, I ended up, a friend of mine's girlfriend was working at Nuvasive, which is they were kind of like a startup when I first got there.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, I can't remember. I was like my employee number was like less than 200 or something like that. So they were still growing. And I ended up being there for 17 and a half years and just recently left there. So Med Device has been good to me. And then the boss that I was working with, Brian, he ended up leaving, going to a competitor. And I started looking around while I was at Nuvasive, and I ended up finding that, hey, there's an opportunity. Contacted him, and he said, yeah, we're looking. So it worked out. I got to go back and work for my old boss, and it's been really, really, really good. So it helped me just go down to 1 job. But now I think I'm back to 2 jobs again.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have 2 or 3, I think.
Yeah.
With us.
Yeah, but, with all that experience that I've gotten, I was able to apply that elsewhere.
Well, as we were talking, going over the questions and what to do in the podcast, we've all agreed that you have an engineer degree because there isn't anything that you can't fix or anything that I've ever thrown at you that you don't say, oh yeah, well you do this, this, and this, and this, and you quickly fix it. So do you have an engineer degree or do you have the Hookup Baits engineer degree?
No, it's basically, it's a life engineering degree, I think.
And where do you get that from?
It's just me.
Some people just have that and some people don't. It just goes with some people.
Yeah.
What I've noticed.
Yeah.
I've always been interested in engineering stuff, and like I was supposed to go to school for mechanical engineering.
Okay, now that makes sense. Okay.
But I've always had that. I mean, being left-handed, they always say the left-handers are really creative, and I've always been that way. I'm always, I got like a MacGyver mind. It's like, okay, I can see something, I kind of like analyze it, and say, okay, I can do it this way, I can do it that way, or I get an idea from somebody, and I can kind of like tweak it to improve it or whatever.
Well, even when we moved into the warehouse here, it took you a matter of minutes to figure out exactly where things go, what's the best progress or process to put things, and it was amazing how quickly you figured that out.
Yeah, well, and that's coming from my background. I was a distribution manager, so I had experience from working at Nuvasive and at Airborne Express, just kind of like how things operate in a process flow environment, in manufacturing environment, to kind of streamline things, and taking a couple of courses and training and stuff at work that work provided us, kind of applying that. So that in itself kind of helped. And like even David Chavez, he's certified in that field of supply chain stuff. He was just like, okay, who did this? Who did this? Because he knew exactly what I was doing, and he noticed everything that I did came from that society of, supply chain logistics.
It's David Sanchez, by the way.
I know it's Sanchez. Love you, buddy. It's always gonna be Sanchez now.
Oh my God. So tell us, how did you get introduced to Hookup Baits?
Well, I met this guy. So I'm a part of the San Diego Rod and Reel Club, and I'm part of San Diego Anglers. And one night, Chad showed up at the San Diego Rod and Reel Club, and he was a guest speaker with Wet Willie, and he made So he made those. He made the boat sticky products, to hold your knives and all that other stuff. And so they were the guest speakers that night. And so Wet Willie did his speech, and then Chad comes up and, hey, I make these baits and they catch everything. And kind of like you look around the room and everybody's like, oh,
Yeah, another one of these.
yeah, right. You know, so
it was early on, too.
yeah, it was really early on because the baits weren't even packaged like you see here. They were coming in a little Plano box, and he was selling them out of the Plano box. They're laid across all the table, and it was crazy. And so so I got to talk.
I remember taking a picture that night where the box was empty.
Oh, I have it.
Yeah.
It's on my phone.
You
Yeah.
took a picture of the box of this. I just had that smile on
We
my
were
face,
so
like,
excited.
Yeah.
We sold everything
They're all
in the
gone.
box.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It's a big, big day.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy. So like I was like, I didn't want to go crazy with them and buy them because I had enough junk in my boxes, but I wasn't a big swim bait guy. I was always a bait and weight guy. I had a ton of swim baits and plastics and stick baits and everything else, but I never used them. Irons, yes, I used, but all the other stuff I never really used because I never caught anything on them. And so I walked up to him and I was like, oh, okay, give me your best suggestions for freshwater and saltwater. Give me like your top 5 baits.
I think for bay, you said ask for bay.
Yeah, I said I wanted bay, and then I wanted some freshwater baits. And so he goes, okay, we'll take these and this, and he handed me, a glow green and a sardine green, and I believe it was a black and gold. You gave me those 3 for the bay, and then you gave me like
all quarters probably.
Yeah, all quarters, and then you gave me like 2 1/8 for freshwater. And so like didn't really touch those for a couple years until I ran out. So anyway, we'll get to that later. So anyway, so then he gave me those, and that was on Thursday night. So that's how I met him, and kind of got introduced to Hookup Baits.
Okay.
So that following Saturday, went on the bike ride with my wife, and I said, you know what, I'm going to bring my tackle box, and I had swim baits and your baits, and I just bought 1 rod, and so we went riding down the bay and went to my spot that I always fish off of Mariners Point, that South Mission Bay Jetty Point, and just started fishing, and I made my first cast, and boom, I got a fish. I'm like, holy crap, it was a bass. So I was like, and my wife's sitting there reading a book for a minute, and then I look around, and I'm like, okay, well, make another cast.
Did anyone see me?
No, I was like, okay, threw it back, boom, caught another fish, and it was I can't remember the order of it, but it was like a halibut or spot. I ended up catching, so I casted 5 times, and I caught 5 fish.
Wow.
4 different species. It was 2 spotted bay bass, a calico, a sand bass, and halibut. And I'm looking at my wife, she's like, no way, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, this isn't real. And so like she started getting bored after a while. So I casted a couple more times, didn't catch anything, and then she's like, let's go back on our back ride. I'm like, okay. So we left. And that was on Saturday. So then I think I didn't go Sunday. Tuesday I came back out. And after work, I was like, okay, I got to go see if this was real.
Yeah.
Right?
That was just a fluke.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way. So then I go to this other side of the point where that flat rock is by the 4 palm trees. And everybody knows about the 4 palm trees. So I go over there, and there's like 5 guys along the shoreline, and then they're all fishing for whatever. With the
bait and weight or something?
Yeah, they're using little chunks of squid on a kind of Carolina rig or a floater or whatever. And they're out there fishing. And I walk up and say, hey, you guys caught anything? And they're like, no. I'm like, all right. So then I walk like 50 feet down from them and cast out again. And it was an outgoing tide, and I cast out, and I could see my line going. Also, boom, I'm bit. And I was like, holy crap, and the guys all I look down there, and they're all looking at me. I'm like, okay. So I grab one and throw it away and cast. Boom. I'm like, uh-oh, I'm on. And they're like, and so like after like 10 casts, one of them finally comes over. He goes, hey, dude, what are you using? And I don't know. I'm using one of these Hookup Bait things, and it's still tied on from Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm using one of these Hookup Bait things. He goes, you got any more? I'm like, oh, man. Okay, yeah, I got one. Handed it to him.
See, even when he
I was
had
gonna say,
a couple in his pocket,
Yeah.
he gave one away.
Yeah, and so like threw it out there. Next thing you know, man, boom, we're both hooking. And he's like, holy crap, man, these things work. I'm like, yeah, it's crazy. And their buddies are still down there not catching anything, and they're watching. So then after a few more casts, another guy comes over, one of their buddies, says, what are you guys using? And he goes, I don't know, he gave me one of these Hookup Bait things. He goes, you got any more? I'm like, oh, man. Yeah, I got another one. Here. And so, like, I gave it to him, and then next thing you know, man, all 3 of us are just, whoa, whoa. And then here comes another one. I'm like, man, I ain't got any more, dude. It's like, you got any more? I was like, no, I don't. And I only had those 2 1/8. I was like, I ain't got any more. So then after that, we just kept fishing, and it was awesome, And so then I fished for a while and I was like, okay, I got to go because it started getting dark, whatever. So that was awesome, just walking away from that. And so after that, it started becoming like a game. And I had to order more from you guys. So I was like, I ordered more and got a few more. And then so after that, it kind of got to be a game. And I started going out a lot more. Before I know it, I'm going out like almost every day after work. And I just go to different spots. I go to Shelter Island. I go to Harbor Island. I just all my normal spots where I used to fish and bait and wait.
I remember it was the guys from the Valley High, I believe. That's the one on Shelter Island.
Yeah, that was the big one, right?
And that was the people from there. I met this guy named Frank, and he gave me a hookup bait. You're hitting that spot a lot.
Yeah.
And turning a lot of people onto the bait then. And we started getting reports back from them.
Yeah.
I met this guy Frank, and he gave me a bait, and I caught some fish. Now I need to buy some, and after a few times of that, and then next time you came back for baits, I'm like, dude, you're doing an awesome job, and then the whole started. Here, let me hook you up with some more, and then you started. More I hooked you up with baits, the more you spread the word, and
and I made a lot of friends that way. It was pretty crazy. Next thing you know, I'm running into people. Hey, Frank, I'm like, oh God, I don't remember this guy's name, man. I don't remember his name. Yeah,
the superstar was born.
Yeah, so I think it was like the second or third time I ordered baits from you guys. I ordered baits, and I was fishing down at the Valley High, and I said, I'm going to be down there, and then that was when you came down, and that was the first time I ever met Jojo. And so she brought some pickled olives, I think it was, from your dad's. You gave me a jar of, like, pickles. Pickles. Okay, so the pickles.
Yeah.
Right? So you gave me, these are from my dad. Had a nice little bow on it and all this stuff from your dad's, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And, like, I just wanted to meet you, firsthand. You've been doing really good and whatnot, because I was posting on Facebook, too.
Yeah.
And so... And so while we're there, you fished with us for a little while. You fished with me for a little while.
And you caught a halibut about this big.
Still
the smallest halibut I've ever seen in my life.
It was smaller than a quarter hookup bait.
It was like that big.
Yeah, about the size of my thumbnail, right? And so we're fishing, and then you guys were deciding to go to dinner at the Valley High, right? So we're there and they're fishing, and then you guys go put your stuff away. And I moved down a little bit, and this guy, and this story always sticks with me, and this is what made me really, really prophetic about hookup baits and why I do what I do. So this kid comes up, him and his buddy show up, and he's still wearing his SeaWorld uniform, right? I don't know if you remember that kid.
Yeah, I remember this.
So his name was Jonathan. So he shows up, and he just came from West Marine. Just bought a brand new Penn Fierce combo, right? Still had the plastic on the wrapper, tag still on it, everything else. And he's got his little green tackle box. It's like, it was a small one. It's like maybe for an infant. And so I go, what are you doing? He goes, oh man, I'm just learning how to fish. And I looked at it, he had it tied on, and he had a Carolina rig, and went down, and he had a white grub on the end. I'm like, what is that? And he goes, oh, I'm ready to go fishing. I'm like, oh, okay, well, go ahead and give it a try. I said, I got these hookup baits. You want to try them? He goes, no, I'm going to try this. He goes, I've never caught a fish before. I'm like, oh, okay. So you guys are still at your car, and
we're having dinner.
No, you were at your car still. This happened pretty quick. So I keep fishing, and I keep catching, and he's throwing this thing out. I said, dude, what do you got in your tackle box? And he opens it up, and he's got like a white bobber, 3 more of those white-tailed grubs, 2 bait hooks, and like an egg sinker. That's all he had in this thing. I'm like, oh my God, you have nothing in here. He goes, well, I just bought whatever I could. And so keep fishing. I'm still catching fish. And I said, dude, you really need to tie on one of these hookup baits. I said, here, just take this and tie it on when you get a chance. And his buddy's like, dude, you need to put it on. Because his friend wasn't catching anything either. And so he goes, oh, okay, I'll try it on later. I said, no, do it right now because I wanted you to catch a fish. And so I finally snipped it off and I tied it on for him. I said, because I got to go.
Yeah.
I know these guys are going to dinner. No, my friends just left. They're going to dinner and I got to go. So you guys start walking back. I leave and I start walking back to my truck and he casts out. And then all of a sudden I hear this, oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. And I go, what? He goes, I got a fish. And he's over there just bendoed. And he's freaking out. His friend's freaking out. His friend drops his pole on the rocks. And, like, he's running up to him. He goes, oh, let me help you. He goes, no, I got it. I got a fish. And he's screaming like bloody murder. And so, like, he comes up and he gets it. And it's, spotted bass bass about 6 to 8 inches, But the stoke on this kid's face was just like, holy smoke. And you guys come around the corner. And there he is, man. Number 1 salesman. Look at this. He caught him a fish. You guys were so stoked with me. And the kid was stoked. And, like, he goes, I can't believe these are incredible. And so, like, I ended up, after you guys left, we're sitting there talking. It's like, yeah, dude, this is all you have to do is tie it on, throw it out there. And his buddy, I gave one to his buddy. Actually, I think I gave him like 3 or 4 to put in his tackle box. I said, dude, all that other stuff in there, just throw it away. You're never going to use it ever again. Mm-hmm. And so after that, I never saw him. I didn't see him for like two years or so. Next thing you know, I think it was right before COVID. We're at, that was when we were still meeting over at the Bahia. Mm-hmm. Kid walks up to me while we were selling baits. He goes, hey, man, do you remember me? And I looked at him. I was like, Jonathan? He goes, yeah, it's me. Remember you gave me those hookup baits? I'm like, oh, my God, dude. So he ended up coming in.
Wow.
He came to the club. He joined the club. But I haven't seen him since then. It's been a few years because of COVID. But it was me. I go, you still fishing? He goes, oh, yeah, man, I'm killing it. Ever since you showed me those. So that right there was one of the main reasons why. I mean, just the stoke that he had at the first time ever catching his first fish. After that, I was like, that's it, man. I think I found a calling. You know what I mean? And the Hookup Baits was it. I got my daughter into it. We spent a lot of time. She's kind of grown out of it now, but we would do half-day trips for the next 3-4 years. And then, and then she finally grew out of it, but just turning into a teenager. But just spreading the stoke was
really what it's all about.
Yeah.
I mean, I have so many stories like that where you just give a guy a bait and they catch a fish, and and then they're just like, it just made their whole month, week, year right there just by giving them a bait.
Yeah.
You didn't even have to show them how to do it or anything. Just here, tie that on.
Yep.
And I can't catch a fish. It just all of a sudden just changes their whole day, their whole way of fishing. Yeah. Makes memories. It's a pretty awesome thing to do.
I mean,
that's really what it's about for me. It's doing that over and over and over again. So.
Yeah, literally, I can't get rid of that memory just because it's one of those that it just, even if I have a bad day, I can think about that, and it's like it turns everything around. And even if you have a bad day of fishing, it's like, dude, this is what the baits do. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've had like a handful of days where I've gotten skunked, and that's just because of either I was there for maybe like 5-10 minutes and just threw a line out and just didn't put any time into it, or it was just a bad day of fishing. But other than that, I'm catching at least 1-2 fish depending on where I'm at. I never get skunked.
What's skunk?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, I can't remember. I can't remember what I did that day, what happened, but
what's that mean?
Yeah, so it could have been like, oh, I got 5 minutes. Let me go fish real quick. But I've had those days where I got 5 minutes and I'll go fish and I'll catch like 5 fish in 5 minutes and then okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's move forward a little bit, and obviously you've been on the Hookup Baits boat many times. So. What is one of your best memories of being on the Hookup Baits boat besides holding on for dear life?
I think one of the best ones that I remember is when it was really like when me and you first started fishing, like when you were still part of Freedom Boat Club, and we went out fishing and it was pouring. Oh. Jojo didn't want to come out, so he did me and you, and it was pouring.
Yeah,
and so we went.
It was
out.
Like you should not be on the water.
Yeah,
it was windy and raining, but we didn't give a crap. We were fishing.
I mean, we got doused.
We had rain gear, full rain gear, but we were like, all right, we're good. We got full rain gear, and it was just blowing, raining sideways.
Oh my God, it was so cold. It was so cold. I mean, the rain started soaking through my rain suit, and I mean, it was a good rain suit, but you're getting so wet that it just. After a while, it just gets through. And so we were over there fishing by the ammo pier. And, I mean, it was just downpour, man. And next thing you know, like, we're fishing, just fishing some spotties, and then Chad goes, oh, I got a good one. Oh, God, I got a good one. And it starts pulling on him, and he's yanking on this thing, and it was the biggest sand bass that I've ever seen.
Yeah, still my biggest sand bass out of the bay.
It was like It was like a 28-inch. We measured it. It was like a 28 sand bass. His head was about as big as this microphone stand, and like you could, like actually his mouth was. And I was like, oh my God, that thing is a toad. Yeah, and I've never seen.
We didn't have a scale, but it was all of 8 pounds. Probably.
Oh, easy, easy.
And it was on a double rig. I had a spotty. I had a decent sized spotty, and then that. Sand bass jumped on.
Yeah. And I was like, holy smokes, man. It was like, I can't believe that thing. I was like, that's the biggest bass I've ever seen in the bay ever. And
probably the biggest bass you ever seen ever at
that point. I was like, I didn't even know they got that big. I swear to God. I was like, holy smokes, I want one of those. So we kept fishing that, and but then we went and poked around the rest of the bay, and like we were under the, just under the Coronado Bridge trying to get out of the weather. And then we're over at the Midway, and like all these people are watching us fish like we're crazy. You know, like I stepped down, and the cooler wasn't there at the time. I stepped down, and wipe out! And I'm looking up. I'm laying on the back of the on the front of the boat on my back, just looking at the people at the Midway. I'm just like, yeah, I'm good. And Chad's still up there, just pounding blocks and
I
stuff.
didn't laugh at you, right?
No, never. No, you don't
Poor
do that.
Frank.
You don't do that. You don't laugh at nobody when something happens like that. And
I can't help myself.
I know.
Sorry.
I know. And so like, but that day right there, I think was like one of my favorite days, just because of I was excited about how big the fish can be.
Yeah.
On Hookup Baits.
Yeah. And we were so jonesing to fish back then. Nowadays, if it's raining, we're like, I ain't going out there.
Yeah.
Right. Back then, we were just so stoked to fish.
Oh my God, it was
we didn't give a crap what the weather was.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I was standing on Harbor Island Drive and days when it's just pouring, and I'm just like out there roping fish, and I'm like, I don't care, I'm catching fish. And nowadays, it's like, oh yeah, like today, it's like, no, it's sprinkling. I'm just gonna stay home.
There's a little bit of moisture in there. We're not going fishing. We're so spoiled
I know.
now.
I know I can catch fish later.
Well, on that note, we're going to take a quick break. Come right back. We have lots more to discuss with Frank. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Jojo with the Hookup Baits Podcast, and we are back with Frank Santiago. We were just...
You got to say it like that. Santiago.
It's cool.
We were just talking about the Hookup Baits, being fishing with Chad, but I know you've got quite a few stories, Chad. Pick one favorite story of Frank on the Hookup Baits boat.
Oh my gosh. You know what I almost remember more of is not the fish that we're catching, it's the times. You know, when we have Wayne Cotto and Frank on the boat, anytime those two are on the boat together, it's a comedy show. Frank and Ronnie, I mean, you know, we call them the Step Brothers because it's just a comedy show, how they are in competition. My fish is bigger than yours, and all this stuff. I mean, just probably the one that stands out though, it's kind of when it first started, the Poor Frank, you know, we had a thing for a while, hashtag Poor Frank, you know, the thing. And it was early on when there used to be those angler clothing tournaments, and it was, we were pretty new to fishing with each other. You know, it was a couple of years in, and I think that was, I had to have my boat then because we were in my boat in Oceanside. It was one of the first, and you know, one of the first tournaments was they added, you can do all three bass. You know, there was a spotted bay bass tournament, but then there's bonus money for us, biggest sand bass and biggest calico. And so we went to Oceanside and we started fishing sand bass, and I caught still to date one of my biggest spotties ever. You know, and we're fishing docks, and Frank caught one, and he's back there measuring it and stuff, and I hooked one. Yeah, and I come around, I just flip it on. It was a 3-pound sand bass.
Yeah,
spotted bay bass. Yeah. So he's sitting there measuring the fish, and he hears a fish flopping behind him, and he turns around and he's like, "Oh my God, dude!" And I'm sitting there going, "Uh-huh." Yeah. Right? Yeah. Well, that was just the start of the day. And then we get done catching our spotties, and then we go outside. You know, all right, let's get our sand bass and calicos, right? And it was a little bit toughy bite, but at the end, we started catching some real nice ones. And I caught a nice calico, you know, like a 3-pound, 4-pound calico or something. And Frank's like, "Dang, you know, man," you know, and then all of a sudden he, like right at it was one of those like almost the last cast of the tournament. I hear Frank's fishing on this side of the boat. I'm on this side of the boat, and Frank's like, "Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one," right? And he flips his sand bass in the boat, and he's like, "Yeah." He's all celebrating. Right as he's celebrating, I go, "Ooh," and I feel this fish, and I'm like, "Uh-oh."
I hate that every time.
This is the first of many.
Oh my God.
And Frank's all stoked on his, you know, it was a good sand bass, like a 3-pound sand bass, and he's like all stoked on it. And I'm bringing my fish up, and he's getting his all ready for the measuring board and stuff. And I go, whoop, flip it in the boat, and he boom, and he's like, man. And he just takes his fish off the measuring board and goes. I'm like, sorry, Frank.
Yeah. He did it for the spotty. He did it for the other bass, and I was just like, oh my god. It's just he doesn't say anything. It's just you hear this. Doom, doom. I'm like, oh god, never mind. Throw it out. And what works with all that too, what really brought on the messing with Frank was one day we were out fishing and I caught one, and then you caught one right after that, and all of a sudden your phone you get a text and it's that stupid ringtone of wah 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 wah, and after that it was oh god.
Yeah, I had a ringtone on there just for any time because Frank always like, oh yeah. Oh, right. We always talk about the Frank soundtrack that we're gonna make.
Yeah, the soundbite board. Yeah.
God bless America. All this stuff he says all the time, and so I made a ringtone, the sad trombone, or whatever it is. So anytime Frank loses a fish, somebody can just send me a text.
Yep.
And my phone will make that noise.
It's like every time. And that was the birthday of. Messing with Frank. Hashtag messing with Frank.
Well, no, that actually came up at the Fred Hall show. One of the first
did it?
Fred Hall shows.
Oh, is that with the sticker? Or after that?
I don't know. We were messing with you at Fred Hall show.
God,
we came up with that, and then it just
Frank
stuck
has
for a while.
T-shirts. He's got keychains.
Yeah.
He's
Stickers.
got
Matter of fact, we went out to dinner last night with my best man from my wedding, and I have a sticker of my face, the sticker face on my wife's car, on Jermaine's car, and. I said, hey, where are you guys parked at when we were leaving? He goes, oh, we're down at the end. I said, oh, we're right here. He goes, where? I go, this white car. And he goes, is that your face on there? And I'm like, oh, yeah. He goes, oh, my God, that's hilarious, And, like, Jermaine's getting compliments from all of her teacher friends at work. He's like, I want one of those. I was like, oh, no, don't.
Oh, I can bring it back.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they were really popular.
We can print more of those.
Oh,
yeah, it's
yeah, so I have more memories of just the laughs,
Always.
and then always catching a bigger fish than Frank's. And it started back then, 4 or 5 years ago, and it still continues. Just last year, Frank caught a big 30-something pound yellowtail. As we're celebrating, yeah, nice yellowtail, Frank. Uh-oh. And, of course, Wayne was on the boat, and Wayne's sitting there calling it. You know Chaz is bigger, Frank. You know it's going to be bigger. Yep. And it was, I'm like...
Couldn't wait 5 minutes. Just let me enjoy it for 5 minutes.
I mean, and it just happens constantly through the years, and it's just something that happens, and it's funny as hell.
I think I'm just going to put motivator on the back of my shirt. So it's like...
Let me motivator.
Yeah,
okay,
just motivator, It's iron sharpens iron.
Motivator.
Yeah. It's not iron sharpens iron anymore. It's like Frank sharpens Chad, and like Frank just gets dull after a while, and Chad just keeps upgrading. So I'm glad I can help.
Yeah, thanks, Frank.
You're welcome.
And would you say there's more competition with you and Wayne, or you and Ronnie?
Oh God, it's got to be me and Ronnie.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh my gosh, yes. Even if I'm not fishing and he's out there fishing, hey, look at this one. Hey, look at this one. Yeah, and it's not just fish. It's lobstering. It's whatever.
And anytime Frank gets snagged on the bottom, Ronnie's like,
video.
Getting his phone. Because Frank's trying to get his thing unstuck. Or if Frank catches a little rockfish, Ronnie's like...
Oh yeah. Well, I'm trying to dehook it without him knowing. Next thing you know, I look to my right and he's right there with the phone. And on the kayak, he pedals up. When he sees me stuck, I can feel it. I look back and he's...
Oh my God.
With his phone, I'm like...
Well, you also mess with him because I know they've been out fishing or lobstering, and you are pretended you're out there.
Oh yeah.
And so you mess with them as well, and they're like, "Oh, where's Frank?"
Oh yeah, got him the other night. Oh yeah, I was like, "Hey, I'm the only one out here. I got 3." And then his brother called me, "Hey, Frank's already out there, dude." I'm like, yep. So yeah, it's always a competition with us.
Well, that's one of the shirts was the Step Brothers, the movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Will Ferrell and the other guy, but we put Frank's and Ronnie's face on there because that's totally you guys. I mean,
all the time. It does, and it doesn't. It's just not fishing. I mean, it's everything. It's always everything. So it's just life in general. There's always something. He's always messing with me. I'm always messing with him, which is, I mean, it's awesome. I love it. I love it.
It's a good time.
So do you have a favorite Hookup Baits color and size that's kind of your go-to no matter what?
Depends on where I'm at, but yeah, no matter what, 5/8 sardine.
I knew you were going to say that.
Always been my number one is the 5/8 sardine. When we first started, it was the quarter sardine because I was a short pounder.
Right.
But now it's like the 5/8 sardine.
Well, now you have a kayak. You've got a boat.
Got friends with boats.
You got hookup baits. You got friends with boats. You got the whole gamut now.
Yep. And all my friends with boats all fish hookup baits. Every single one of them.
And what has been your PB? You have several, but what has been like your top 3 PBs that you have celebrated for at least 3 to 4 minutes before Chad came up with something?
Okay. So, well, there's one was the halibut when we went down to the pipe, and that was a long time ago. We fished the pipe, and I got a halibut then, and then I think you got a lingcod that day, but I got my PB halibut. We were fishing a tournament actually for San Diego Anglers. San Diego Anglers. Yeah.
At halibut at the IB pipe.
Yeah, it was at the IB pipe.
We don't catch a lot of halibut down there.
No, yeah, and it's an old picture. Ended up being it was 36-inch halibut, and it barely fit in the cooler. It was that when you had that red soft bag cooler, the tail was still sticking out of it. It was a good size fish. Yeah. And then my other fish was a
Yellowtail.
the 44-pound yellowtail earlier in the year. Yeah. Chad wasn't with us. I was on my friend's boat. Thank God, because otherwise he would have got a 45-pounder. Just rained on my parade because after I talked to him, he goes, "Oh, you caught the one that probably broke me off."
Yeah, I got broke off that
same spot
a couple days earlier.
Yeah,
that was a good one.
Yeah, so I threw that. I was double rigging and I threw out for bass and got hooked on a bass first, and then it shot off, and then all of a sudden I started bringing them in, and then it just stopped. And then that was when I started bringing that in, and it ended up being that's my PB. But up to that point, my PB was a 32-pound, but that was on bait on the Tabasco too when they were still down in San Diego. So that was a few years until I got a PB, a new PB. And then I think my last one, I'm trying to think. I want to say it's probably a red is I caught my biggest red. I think it was almost 4 or 5 pounds. It was a huge one. Yeah. But other than that, I haven't caught, too many others that are... I mean, I've caught some good sand bass, too. Actually, I got a good sand bass in the bay, like 24-inch sand bass in the bay, which was, that's my PB in there.
Yeah.
So.
And as you have developed more and more fishing with hookup baits and so forth, at one point you decided that you would do the SBS tournament. Now you're doing freshwater tournaments.
Yeah.
What has tournament fishing done for you? What has it taught you? What do you take away from it?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, number one, the baits gave me confidence to get in to do it. I've never had the confidence to go in and do any kind of tournament fishing whatsoever. I mean, I've done little, fun things where I say, yeah, you get the, it's just a contest, not a tournament, but a contest. Yeah. But the confidence to go into a tournament series is a completely different game where you're actually competing against other guys that are, that's what they do. Yeah. And you're targeting a specific species, not just the biggest fish. But what that's taught me is you need to start learning your conditions. You need to start learning, water temperature, water color, tides, color selection, whatever. Boat positioning is still a big one that we're learning. And even the pre-fishing part of it is you got to put all those things together and then have a backup plan because come game day, it could change, and then you got to be able to adjust. So what tournament fishing has completely changed the way I think about how I fish.
And you have a time. This is the only time you have.
Yep. And there's some times where it's you get your bite first thing in the morning and the rest of the day you can't do squat. You go hunting, so then you got to think of a strategy of get your bag limit, then go hunting. You can't go hunting first for the big swing from the fences and then try and put a bag together later because you're putting the pressure on yourself. Yeah. So,
there's so many small details in tournament fishing. I mean, that to make you consistent. It's a hard game for sure.
Yeah.
But it's the game that teaches you more than anything else in fishing. Will be, really competing in a tournament series.
Yeah.
So.
It makes you think about things that you don't normally think about. Hey, I want to go fishing today. You'll look at the tide. You'll see if it's not raining. And then you'll look at the water and see which way the current's going or whatever. You just think about the simple things. Yeah. But when it comes to tournament fishing, it's okay.
Everything's amplified.
Right. You double rigging or you single rigging? Are you, are they shallow? Are they top water? What are they? So, and especially salt water, I love salt water. That's my go-to. Freshwater, oh my God, I hate it. Whoever talked me into doing that crap, I can kill him right now because it's so damn frustrating, But, Ronnie excels at it, so I'm learning from him. Dale excelled at it, when he was growing up, and he'll tell you that until the cows come home. Love you, Dale.
Back in my day when I bass fish.
That's when gas was 5 cents. The wheel wasn't invented yet either. Anyway. But no, he was he did all the wand tournaments and all that stuff, and watching him freshwater fish is like he knows his stuff. You know what I mean? And like the little nuances as to oh dude, you should see over by the tules, or the wind's blowing there, whatever. And I'm just like, dude, I don't know all this crap. Give me a bobber and a mealworm and I'm good. I'm good. But he knows his stuff, and so learning from all those guys. It's been, the guys don't fish hookup baits in the freshwater. They do all these other nuances to it. So we put a hookup bait twist on it, and it works. So just trying to adapt to that kind of field is really, really hard, because the bass are really, really finicky.
Yeah.
And I hate it.
Yeah.
God bless America.
It's
man.
hard.
I hate
It's hard to be consistent with that
Oh.
stuff. Yeah.
Well, you also do a lot of saltwater tournaments in your
Yeah,
kayaks.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
kayak tournaments,
yeah.
and spotty tournaments. All
yeah, I
that,
go in with a lot more confidence with saltwater. I mean, I was able to win that kayak for the, for the Battle of the Bays, which was that's my biggest
That was
achievement
That was
ever.
your biggest win, right?
That was my
there,
biggest
right?
achievement ever. I got to beat Tony, and I got to beat Derwin, and Dale, and I was like pretty proud of myself then. And it was like the last
winning
event
a
of the year.
Hobie kayak
It's
pro
huge.
angler
Yeah.
14. That's a pretty
Yeah.
darn. That's a great prize.
Oh, heck yeah, man! I still look at that thing and I'm like, yeah, But it was the point of these guys that I fish against. I became really, really good friends with, and so we're always at each other. We know if we're in a tournament, you look for their names on the app, and oh man, Derwin's in this one, or here comes. I already know Dale's gonna be in one of them, and then here comes Ronnie now, and I'm the person I need to beat most out of all those. It could be anybody. It could be Sonny. It could be any of them. Is Ronnie. I don't care about anybody else.
Don't care
gotta
what
beat
place
Ronnie.
I come in, long as I'm ahead of
Because
Ronnie.
I can't stand hearing the crap coming from Ronnie. Just to let you know.
Really? He's just so quiet.
Oh yeah,
jeez.
he's so humble.
He's an innocent little angel.
Oh my gosh, love him to death. But yeah, he's the one. He's the iron that I sharpen against is him. And I'm from fishing against Chad, of course. But it's always him. And then Dale gets mad at me because when we're fishing as a team, I struggle sometimes. But then there's days where we're both on point. But when I'm fishing against him, boy, I'm on him.
Yes.
And he hates it.
And he
And
hates
I
it.
don't know what it is. It's not that I really am gunning for him, which I am. But I just do better. I don't know
You
why.
do.
I don't know what it is.
Consistently.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know what it is. So maybe it's because I'm in control of my kayak or whatever. But he pushes me to be that much better, and that's what I thank him for. And same with Chad and Al and Tom and Cash and all everybody. Ronnie, all those guys. Yeah. They push me to be that better angler, and that's what tournament fishing is all about, is to push you to be that better person and better angler. So it's taught me a lot. It's taught me how to be humble. It's taught me to, to really push myself and find myself when I'm out there frustrated and I can't catch fish. It's like, okay, well, what are those guys doing? And what would they do? Just from fishing with them all the time. And I'd learned that and then started applying it. Next thing you know, like, hey, Ronnie's trick's working.
Yeah.
Chad's trick's working.
Yeah.
Dale's don't work so much. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I had to throw that in there. I gotta get him in while I can.
Frank will be looking for a new SBS partner.
I don't know. I think Ronnie might have beat me out for that one too. So no, I'm just
God.
kidding.
Oh, my
But yeah, he's like I said. Everybody has their different nuances. Tom and Cash. Oh my God, dude. I said, what are you guys doing?
They're insane.
Like, what the hell are you guys doing? I want to know. Well, Cash, like, well, we're kind of getting into him, but come on, dude, spill your beans. Let me go talk to your dad. So
It's funny watching you do a Cash impersonation because he does a Frank impersonation so often.
I think everybody impersonates everybody. So
And obviously you have, as Chad was saying recently on a podcast, the friendships that you have developed will be lifelong.
Oh, absolutely.
And then the experience and watching, all of us get better
Absolutely.
at fishing hookup baits and hookup baits product getting better. And
Yeah.
it's just, it's memories we will never forget.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, I honestly, I bled black, red, and white for this company, and I want to continue to do that. Spend a lot of hours after work coming from my other job and coming to the house, and then now that I'm doing more of the lead and stuff, I'm up late at home. If I'm not fishing, I'm pouring lead. If I'm not pouring lead, I'm fishing. And if I'm not doing any of those things, I might see my family, or I might be with my dog, and I might sneak in a donut here and there, but
So, what are all the jobs of Frank at Hookup Baits? The main one is he pours a lot of the lead, right?
Mm-hmm.
He does the pre-scanning of all new employees,
Yep.
pre-interviews.
Yep.
Does layout and
Schematics of
the
the
schematics.
warehouse.
He does
the
all
process,
our Excel sheets,
Yes.
Excel layouts,
Process.
Processing.
and quality and reviewing the process and quality control to be most efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah, he makes me look really good.
He's got, so that's what a lot of Frank's roles with
Yes.
Hookup Baits. So he's
And anything
very
we can-
much part of
anything
the
we can throw
family
at
and
him
company.
To, okay, Frank, solve this,
Yeah.
and we throw it at him.
I love doing it. I love being, and like I've always told
Yeah, a
you
lot
guys,
of it
it's
you do
always,
for free, except
just-
for the
it's
lead heads.
It's just for the love of the company, man. I love you guys. You guys got me. You guys really changed my outlook on how to fish, on how to meet people, how to deal with people, just being more outgoing and stuff like that. It's like, I've always been kind of like an outgoing person anyway, but this has changed it completely around. Like meeting people in the industry and just getting to know, what people do and how they do things and just the whole networking part of things. And just
you
of life.
even give seminars now sometimes.
Every now and again, yeah. And when you're not there,
you go out and do a rep. You rep for the
he's great
veteran
at-
trips
great.
and the kid trips.
Yeah.
You were very
They love him.
Part of that, the kid program, the Rollo kid program.
Yep.
You and Dell just crushed that. That
Yeah.
was very good.
yeah, and that was awesome because like that was with one of the teachers that works with Shemaine, and like I said, the whole networking part was they find out hey, what's your husband do? Oh, he fishes a lot, but he's got a normal job. Oh, he fishes, and next thing you know, one of the teachers, he's a big time fisherman. Chris Stanley, he's one of the big time fishers, but he's been a teacher, I don't know, for probably 30 years or so, but he's been doing this kids program, taking kids to Cuyamaca and Friends of Rollo, and he's been doing that for years. And to find that network connection was huge because now Hookup Baits got involved, and Dale came out there with me on 3 days, and then Ronnie came out with me on a day or two, and the word's gotten out, and all these kids, just the smiles and watching their experience of ever first catching their first fish or ever even seeing the ocean.
Yeah.
Some of these kids are they live in San Diego, but some of their parents don't go to the beach, or some of these kids come from they're disadvantaged, like Top Flight Golf and all those guys. Those are all disadvantaged kids who have never been to the ocean, let alone catching their own fish.
Yeah.
So, being a part of that is really, what Hookup Baits gave to me, and I ran with it. And I was just like, oh,
Well,
dude,
and I
this
love
is
the
awesome.
stories when you tell me how one of the little kids they do not leave your side.
No.
Okay, they're ready for the next,
Yep.
handoff. And,
That or Dwayne and Norm and all the guys from San Diego Anglers that are out there. Okay, you guys want to catch a fish? Stand next to this guy.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, I'll hook him up and then I'll get another rod and I'll go, oh, who needs one? And then they'll send another kid my way. And that's like awesome. Just watching this conveyor belt of kids just, oh, okay, go. Okay, go. And Dale got on the same thing and Ronnie was like, oh, this is just rad, And it's like, you can have a bad day and that will just brighten you up.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah,
For
so-
sure. That's good stuff.
And obviously you've seen Hookup Baits. You've been with us from almost the beginning.
Yeah.
And you have helped us succeed. You've helped us when we've had setbacks on what to do and evaluate it and move forward. So where do you see Hookup Baits the next 1 to 5 years? Besides me winning the lottery and you taking my job.
Oh, no. I can't. I can never take your job. I don't want your
I-
job. Just to let you know, I don't want your job.
Okay, well, COO.
I want Chad's job. I don't want your job. I want
Everybody
Chad's
wants
job.
my job.
my job. Nobody wants everybody wants Chad.
You can't fish from behind a desk.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you got,
I can't get rid of it.
the Frank and Al fighting over my job
Yeah.
now.
All right.
I'll be Chad's secretary. I'm ready as motivator. I can.
Oh,
I
he needs a
can,
manoger for his calendar.
I don't know if I can do that. I can give that to Al. He's gonna retire soon anyway, so he can give it to Al. No, I see Hookup Baits. And this has always been my vision. I've always seen Hookup Baits, not just as a bait, but as a system. Just the rods, the reels, the line, all that terminal tackle stuff. But the baits themselves, I can see it just like Shimano. Just follow the big guys. They had their wax wing system, they had the Lucana system. I can see the Hookup Bait system. All spinning rods. This weight, this action, this how much
Have a
power.
whole set from trout to
From
yellowtail,
everything, yeah.
all the way through, and
Absolutely.
Then have our own brand of fluorocarbon, have our own brand of,
even mono or
whatever,
nanofil,
But
whatever
it's
you
the
guys
whole
use.
system from
Yes.
start to finish. You can buy a fishing system, the Hookup Baits system.
Yep.
Can you work on that, Frank?
Trust me, I've been
He's been mentioning it to me for years.
I have a
so.
spreadsheet that I'm going through. I have been going through, like, I go through different rods, and I'm like, okay, 7.76 to 9 foot rods, and this power, this weight, all that stuff. I'm spreadsheeting it with the size of baits, the size of line, all that stuff. Just kind of mapping it all out just to see, okay, does this work? And then, I'll see what Chad's using, and I'll kind of put that in there and then kind of work around it. So yes, I've been working on that for quite a while. I've been kind of been like a skunk works kind of, not skunk fishing, but skunk works is kind of like a top secret type of deal. So kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit. But that's what I've been doing, like off on the side without you guys knowing that I've been kind of like, oh, this might work, and then I'll go out and try it on my kayak, and see what matches out. So yeah, just kind of, and then once I got it fine tuned, I was okay. Here, Chad, see if that works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's been a work in progress over the years, and besides pouring lead, every now and again I'll go back onto my spreadsheet and, oh, hey, that makes a good note, type of thing. So yeah.
And as a company, when you hear someone, there's Frank, or they come up to you and you don't even know who they are, but they know who you are from fishing and podcast and tournaments.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel? I mean, you are a celebrity.
I kind of, it's kind of weird because I kind of shy away sometimes. It's like, God, I don't know this person, but it is kind of cool. But at the same time, I'm like, oh my gosh, how embarrassing, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
It took me a while to get used to that.
But,
a few years ago too.
I'm still trying to get used to that, and like, even when I'm fishing with Dale, they're kind of like, hey, that's Frank, and I'm like, how do you know me?
Yeah. So. And it does. I mean, when Hookup Baits really started taking off and everything else, and it's like you try to remember everybody's name and where you met them.
It's hard.
And they come, oh, hey, Chad, and this and that, and you're like, yeah, you're trying to be nice. Oh yeah, hey, what's up? And then you're just like, God dang it, where did I meet this guy? How do I know him? And then after a couple of years of that, you just finally, you know what?
Yeah.
It's all about
if
the
I know
conversation.
if I know you, I mean, it just stop worrying about it.
No offense, but yeah, it's like, it's hard to remember everybody.
Yeah,
I mean,
when
I have a hard time
when you start meeting so many people and people know who you are, you just end up kind of just getting used to it, and then some as you start talking to them and stuff, sometimes that thing will click, and then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, yeah, that's where that guy's from. Or sometimes it never does click, and you're just happy that they're stoked seeing you. So
exactly.
Well, we're going to wrap up, and we cannot thank you enough, Frank, for everything you've done for us.
Oh
the
gosh,
friendships,
I can't thank you guys.
The laughs, the ability to look forward and keep us moving forward, and now I'm going to have to rearrange my business plan because I thought you were going to take my position, but now everybody wants Chad's position. So, oh my gosh, I got to rework the 2023 business plan here. But hopefully someday I'll win that lottery, and you and Al and Chad can all hit the sales force and the fishing scene, and I think you'd be pretty happy doing that.
I think so. I think so.
But seriously, we cannot thank you enough for everything you've done.
I can't
us.
thank you guys enough. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, you are my right-hand man for anything I need.
You guys rock.
All righty. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Again, this is Frank Santiago.
You said it better at the beginning.
Frank Santiago.
There you go.
I like that.
Thanks for tuning in.